My brother moved into my vacant rental while I was working overseas. Now he's claiming it's his, and somehow, my parents are backing him. Hey everyone! Before I dive into what's easily the most insane situation I've ever faced, quick housekeeping: if you enjoy these kinds of real-life roller coasters, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. The channel's been quiet for a bit, and your support genuinely helps. Alright, let's get into it. So, I'm a 34-year-old guy, and right now I'm in one hell of a bind. I just got back from a 3-month overseas assignment, great opportunity, solid pay, but I returned home to find that my older brother, Tyler, he's 36, had moved into my rental property. Not only that, he'd changed the locks, made himself comfortable, and is now claiming he has a legal right to stay. He's apparently trying to claim ownership under something called adverse possession. He says that since I left the place empty, and because he's been living there, maintaining it, and putting money into improvements, he has a legitimate claim to the property. Let me back up and explain the whole situation, because honestly, it's one of the most messed up things I've ever had to deal with. I own a modest rental home about an hour from where I live, a simple 3-bedroom ranch in a decent neighborhood. Nothing fancy, but I bought it 2 years ago as a long-term investment. The previous tenants moved out this past January. I figured I'd take some time before renting it out again, maybe do a few small upgrades, paint, fix a few things here and there. Nothing major. Then out of nowhere, in February, my company offered me a short-term assignment in Seattle, 3 months, good money, couldn't say no. Since the house was vacant anyway, I thought, perfect timing. I could handle the upgrades and new tenants when I got back. Before flying out, I made sure the place was secure. Locked every door and window, left the utilities on low to prevent freezing, thought I had the security cameras set up, and even asked my neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, to keep an occasional eye on the property. I also let my family know that the house would be vacant while I was away. Fast forward to last week, I get back home, drive out to check on the place, and immediately something feels off. There are 2 cars in the driveway, Tyler's pickup truck and another vehicle I don't recognize. The lawn's been mowed, which surprises me. When I try to unlock the front door, my key doesn't work. I knock, and to my absolute shock, Tyler opens the door. He's wearing slippers, holding a mug that literally says "Home Sweet Home," and grinning like he owns the place. "Jason," he says, cheerful as ever. "Welcome back, little bro. You've got to see what I've done with the place." I'm frozen for a second, completely stunned. Once I regain my senses, I ask him directly, "What the hell are you doing here?" He laughs and goes, "Your house? Man, you ditched this place." I've been living here, paying the bills, fixing it up. According to state law, I've got grounds to file for adverse possession. I already spoke to a lawyer. At first, I thought he was joking. Tyler has always been the schemer in the family, the guy with a dozen get-rich-quick ideas, most of them disasters. But this time, he looked dead serious. I told him, "Get out. This is my property. What you're doing is illegal. I'm calling the cops." He pulls out his phone, shows me screenshots of utility bills, photos of him doing minor repairs, even what he calls a lease agreement. "A lease? With who?" I asked. "With myself," he says, completely straight-faced. "As the acting property manager. All above board, Jason. You left this place unattended, and I stepped in to keep it alive." He kept going, said his lawyer believes there's a legal pathway here, especially since I left the country and wasn't actively managing the property. That argument really pissed me off. "I was away for work," I snapped. "That's not abandonment. It was vacant for a few months, temporarily." "Not how the law sees it," he replies, still with that smug little smirk. "You let it sit. I moved in, kept it maintained, made it livable. I'm not some squatter, I'm your brother. I protected something you were letting rot." I was shaking at this point, absolutely livid. I demanded again that he leave. "That's going to require a formal eviction," he said calmly. "And my lawyer's ready to contest it. Could take months. Maybe even years. Or," he added, "we could work something out. I've put time and money into this place. If you reimburse me fairly, maybe I'll move out." I stormed off, jumped into my car, and called the police. When the officers arrived, Tyler handed them copies of utility payments, a folder full of receipts, and even printouts of emails he claims he sent me about the house, which, for the record, I never received. The police said it was a civil issue. Without a court order, they couldn't remove him. Still stunned, I went home and immediately called my lawyer, Karen. She was floored, just as baffled as I was. She said she'd start digging into the specifics of our state's adverse possession laws, but warned me to stay calm and avoid escalating the situation. That night, I called my parents, thinking they'd be just as horrified. But instead, my mom says, "Well, Tyler told us how much effort he's put into that house. He showed the officers before and after photos of the house, and I'll admit he had done some work. The place looked nice. But let's be real, he's literally stealing my house. I lost it. He's stealing my house." I shouted over the phone. "Don't be so dramatic, Jason," my dad cut in. "Your brother saw an opportunity and took initiative," he said, like this was some brilliant startup pitch instead of blatant trespassing. That's what successful people do. Maybe you too should think about teaming up on it. Teaming up? Were they out of their minds? I've spent the past week knee-deep in research on adverse possession laws. In most states, someone has to live on a property openly and continuously for 5 to 20 years before they can even think about making a legal claim. But Tyler, he's convinced he's found some kind of shortcut. He insists that since the property was abandoned, the timeline can be fast-tracked, especially with all the so-called improvements he's made. Yesterday, I went back to the house with my lawyer, Karen, to get everything properly documented. Tyler let us in, he had to, since we gave him legal notice, and, to my shock, he had actually done work on the place. The walls were freshly painted. There was new vinyl flooring in the kitchen. The backyard had been landscaped. He even had organized folders of receipts, thousands of dollars worth of upgrades. He stood there, beaming like he just won an award. "Look at this," he said proudly. "I've increased the property value by at least 30 grand. You should be thanking me, Jason." Karen pulled me aside. I could tell by the look on her face that things weren't going to be simple. She explained that although Tyler probably doesn't have a strong claim for adverse possession yet, the fact that he's invested money and has been living there gives him some standing. It complicates things a lot. Evicting him wouldn't be quick or easy. She told me I'd need to bring in a real estate attorney who deals specifically with complex property disputes. Then came the real gut punch. My neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, told me Tyler moved in literally the day after I flew out to Seattle. He told her I had asked him to house sit and supervise some renovations. Since he's my brother, she didn't think to question it. That also explained why my security system never alerted me to anything strange. Tyler had disabled it. He went into the house, disconnected the cameras, and then installed his own setup. He's now conveniently using that new system to claim he upgraded the home's security. Meanwhile, my work life is falling apart. I can't concentrate on anything. Every waking minute is consumed by this mess. I've already spent over $2,000 on legal consultations, and Karen warned me that if this drags on, I could be looking at anywhere between 10 and 20 grand in legal fees alone, assuming Tyler fights back hard, which he clearly plans to do. And just when I thought it couldn't possibly get worse, his lawyer sent me a formal settlement letter. He wants $50,000 to leave. Yes, you read that right. $50,000. He's essentially demanding that I pay him to vacate my own property. The letter details every single improvement he claims to have made: materials, labor, even time value, and it ends with a veiled threat: if I don't pay, he'll pursue the adverse possession claim to the fullest extent of the law. At this point, I'm beyond overwhelmed. How is this even happening? How can someone just walk into your house and start claiming ownership? And how is my own family, my own parents, completely okay with this? Has anyone out there gone through anything like this? I'm honestly at a loss. I can't afford to wage a long, drawn-out legal war, but there's no way I'm giving him the house. And no way I'm paying him a dime. I feel completely stuck. Every option feels worse than the last. Any advice? Update 1, 2 weeks later. Before I say anything else, I just want to thank everyone who commented on my original post. I honestly can't thank you all enough. Your advice and support through this absolute nightmare has meant more to me than I can put into words. I've got an update, and unfortunately, it's not the kind I was hoping for. Things have gotten even messier. After going through your comments, I followed the most common suggestion and hired a real estate attorney who specializes in these kinds of cases. His name is Mark Sullivan, and he's got years of experience dealing with adverse possession and squatters. I was hoping he'd take one look at the situation and reassure me that Tyler didn't stand a chance. And in some ways, he did, kind of. Mark reviewed every document, every receipt, every piece of so-called evidence Tyler had collected. The good news? Tyler's adverse possession claim doesn't hold up. Not even close. In our state, the law requires someone to live on the property for a minimum of 7 continuous years, and not just that, you also have to meet strict legal conditions. You must occupy the property openly, exclusively, without permission, and clearly demonstrate your intent to claim ownership. Tyler's only been there 3 months. That's it. Nothing he's done overrides the legal timeline. But here's where things took a darker, more disturbing turn. Tyler wasn't just squatting. He was planning. Calculated. Manipulative. First, there's the fake email trail. Tyler went all out. He fabricated a whole string of fake emails, addressed to my work account, which, of course, he knows I rarely check when I'm traveling. In those emails, he posed as a concerned brother, supposedly trying to warn me about the condition of the property. Then, this is the wild part, he created a fake email address that looked nearly identical to mine. He used it to stage entire back-and-forth conversations with himself, printing out the emails as if they were legitimate proof that he'd been acting with my consent. Second, the so-called home improvement scam. You remember those receipts he flashed at the cops? Mark brought in a licensed contractor to evaluate them, and yeah, some work had been done. But the $30,000 he claimed in upgrades? Total fiction. At best, the work is worth maybe $8,000. And that's being generous. Worse still, some of the receipts were blatantly fake. He photoshopped real invoices from hardware stores, altered the dates, inflated the costs, and forged additional line items to make it look like he'd spent way more than he had. Third, and this one blew my mind, Tyler didn't just pretend to manage the property. He actually rented out 2 of the bedrooms to real tenants. People are living there, paying $600 each every month. While I've been draining my savings on legal fees, Tyler's been collecting $1,200 in rent on my property. And yes, these tenants sign leases. They look completely official, with Tyler listed as the property manager. They have no idea about the family drama. As far as they're concerned, they're renting in good faith. Unfortunately, that means they now have rights as legal tenants, and I can't just kick them out without following formal procedures. Fourth, the utility situation. Sure, Tyler switched all the utilities into his name and paid the bills, but not out of kindness. He's been running everything around the clock. Keeps the heat at 78 degrees in the middle of summer, leaves lights on day and night, and apparently has multiple computers running non-stop. Mark suspects he might even be mining cryptocurrency in the house based on the electricity usage spike. Now Tyler is threatening to sue me for reimbursement if I evict him, claiming I'll owe him for every utility bill he's paid. Fifth, and this one hit hardest, insurance fraud. While I was overseas, Tyler filed a homeowner's insurance claim for alleged water damage in my name. He forged my signature, submitted fake photos, and pocketed a $5,000 payout. He barely did any repairs. I only found out because my insurance company called me last week to discuss raising my premium. That's how I learned a claim had even been filed. So now, eviction proceedings have officially begun. But there's a big catch, the tenants. Mark says we have to handle them very carefully to avoid triggering a separate legal battle. And of course, Tyler has now lawyered up too. His attorney is Emily Brooks, a name Mark recognized immediately. She's apparently infamous in our area for pushing property law to the absolute limit in what Mark described as creative but ethically questionable ways. Last week, we had our first court hearing. Tyler showed up in a tailored suit, slicked back hair, and a folder full of rehearsed statements. He looked like the picture of professionalism. Calm, articulate, calculated. He stood there and presented his version of events like he was giving a TED Talk about civic responsibility. Claimed he rescued a neglected home that was hurting the neighborhood's value. Then, just when I thought it couldn't get more absurd, he pulled out photos of the property right after I left. But they were doctored. He digitally added overgrown weeds, darkened the windows, and even edited in trash bags on the lawn to make the house look abandoned and run down. The judge wasn't buying the adverse possession argument, thank God. But she did seem sympathetic to the fact that Tyler had invested time and money into the house. She ordered a full audit of all improvements and expenses and assigned a court-appointed assessor to evaluate the actual value of the work done. Which means, more delays. More hearings. More legal bills. More stress. And if you think the legal side is exhausting, the family side? It's a total disaster now. After the hearing, I went straight to my parents' house. I brought Karen with me. I needed someone else in the room, a witness. I laid everything out, the forged emails, the fake receipts, the rental scam, the insurance fraud. That's when the truth finally came out. Tyler had been giving my parents $500 a month, claiming it was part of his property management income. They believed him. They thought he'd finally turned things around and was building a life. They didn't ask questions. They were proud of him. When I told them what was really going on, my mom broke down in tears. But my dad? He didn't back down. So what if he bent the rules a little, he said. At least he took initiative. You left the country, Jason. You weren't around. Tyler stepped up. Stepped up? I snapped. He stole from me. You've got other rental properties, my dad said flatly. You're doing well. Why can't you help your brother get a leg up? That's when it hit me. Like a punch to the chest. Other rental properties? I only own one. Just this house. I looked at him. His expression shifted, confused, uncertain. Then he said, "Wait. Tyler told us you had 3 rental properties." He actually showed them the listings. My heart sank. I don't own 3 properties. Not even close. Before I left for Seattle, I had been casually looking at 2 other potential investments. I saved a few listings, jotted down some notes, even drove past the properties just to get a feel for the neighborhoods. But I never took any concrete steps. So how the hell did Tyler even know about them? I rushed home, heart pounding, and pulled out my old backup laptop, the one I'd left in the apartment while I was away. It had definitely been accessed. My browser history had been wiped, but I dug deeper and uncovered cached data. Sure enough, Tyler had logged into my real estate platforms, scrolled through my saved searches, and even accessed my email and banking apps. He had been tracking everything: my finances, my investment plans, my digital footprint. Every move. Later that night, he sent me a text that chilled me to my core. I know about the Maple Street and Jefferson Avenue listings. Shame to let good opportunities rot while you're off playing corporate hero in Seattle. Maybe it's time we talked about a partnership. That was it. That was the final straw. I called Mark Sullivan immediately. He didn't mince words. This has moved way beyond a civil matter, he said. You're now looking at potential criminal charges: identity theft, wire fraud, and possibly extortion. You need to file a police report immediately and consider filing for a restraining order. And just when I thought things couldn't possibly spiral any further. The next day, I got a call from a woman named Linda Reyes. She owns the property on Maple Street, one of the listings I'd saved but never contacted. Mr. Jason, she said politely, just calling to confirm our meeting next week about the purchase agreement. My blood ran cold. I think there's been a misunderstanding, I replied, trying to steady my voice. I never reached out about buying your property. She paused. Your brother Tyler said you two are business partners. He told me he's handling the transaction. He showed me financial statements and proof of funds, all in your name. We're scheduled to close in 30 days. My hands started to shake. Mrs. Reyes, I said slowly, you need to stop everything. Tyler is not my partner. He has absolutely no authority to act on my behalf. There was a long silence. But, he has power of attorney paperwork. Signed by you. I hung up, called Mark, called the police, and then ran to the bathroom and threw up. Tyler had forged legal documents, giving himself power of attorney over me. He was actively trying to purchase property in my name. God only knows what else he was planning: open lines of credit, mortgage fraud, drain my accounts, disappear. I immediately hired a criminal defense attorney to work alongside Mark. I froze all my credit, changed every password, activated two-factor authentication on everything, and installed security cameras around my entire apartment. I also found out that Tyler had been going around town telling people we were partners. According to him, I was the silent investor while he was running the show. At this point, the eviction case felt like a side note. I was staring down the barrel of identity theft, document forgery, real estate fraud, you name it. I brought in a forensic accountant, and after combing through the damage, he estimated that Tyler's actions had already cost me nearly $40,000, including legal fees, lost rental income, the fraudulent insurance claim, and repairs to the property. I haven't had a full night's sleep in weeks. I've lost 15 pounds. I'm barely functioning at work. In fact, my boss pulled me aside and gently suggested I consider taking a leave of absence. Meanwhile, Tyler is still living in my house. Still collecting rent from the tenants. Still posting on Instagram about his booming property management company. The restraining order hearing is scheduled for next week. Tyler says he plans to fight it. According to him, I'm sabotaging his business. He's even filed a countersuit for defamation, claiming my accusations are false and damaging his reputation. I'll post another update after the hearing. And to those who keep asking why I don't just pay him off, this isn't about money anymore. If I give in once, he'll come back. Again and again. And based on everything I've uncovered so far, I'm certain I've only seen the tip of the iceberg. Thanks again to everyone still following this mess. And if you're dealing with anything remotely similar, document everything, get solid legal help, and never, ever underestimate what desperate people are capable of. Especially when it's your own family. Update 2 1 month later. This will probably be my final update on this nightmare. I went back and forth on whether to share this at all. But so many of you have been with me through every painful step, and I feel like you deserve to know how it ended. Honestly, I also just need to get it out of my system. The restraining order hearing? A complete circus. Tyler showed up in a sharp suit with his attorney Emily Brooks and 2 junior associates in tow. I came in with Mark Sullivan and Karen. What should have been a simple hearing dragged into a 3-hour legal battle. Tyler tried to rewrite the narrative. He painted me as some absentee landlord who couldn't handle competition. Claimed he'd stepped up when I abandoned the property. That he'd rescued a deteriorating house and was now a respected community figure in the local real estate scene. And he came prepared. He presented a full set of branding materials for his fake company, Phoenix Property Solutions, LLC. Business cards, a functioning website, printed testimonials, every bit of it professionally designed and completely fabricated. But then Tyler made a critical error. In a move so arrogant it almost felt scripted, he submitted the forged power of attorney documents. The same ones he used to con Linda Reyes. He claimed I had signed over full authority to him before leaving for Seattle. Mark didn't hesitate. Your Honor, he said, stepping forward, we'd like to submit a forensic report proving these documents were forged. We can also provide browser history logs showing that Mr. Tyler downloaded the legal templates from an online site 2 months after my client had already left the country. Tyler's lawyer tried to object, but the damage was already done. The judge's expression shifted, her professional mask cracking just slightly, revealing something colder. concern, and maybe anger. She granted the restraining order on the spot and referred the forged documents to the district attorney's office for a criminal investigation. As I was leaving the courthouse, Tyler walked straight up to me, completely ignoring the fact that a restraining order had just been issued against him. "You think this is over?" he hissed. "You think you've won? I've got more evidence than you can imagine. Emails, texts, recordings, proof you agreed to everything. I'm taking you down." That's when it finally hit me. Tyler wasn't just desperate. He wasn't playing a long con. He was delusional. Somewhere along the line, he'd convinced himself that his lies, forgeries, and manipulation were real. That he was the victim. That he actually deserved my house. The next few weeks were a blur: court filings, depositions, meetings with detectives, mountains of paperwork. And then the criminal investigation started peeling back the layers of what Tyler had been doing. It turned out he had tried to take out a $200,000 home equity line of credit against my rental property, completely behind my back. He had forged my name on not one, but 3 separate purchase agreements for other properties. He'd opened multiple business credit cards in my name and racked up over $30,000 in debt. He even filed a mail forwarding order, redirecting all my personal mail to a P.O. box he controlled. But the worst? He had installed keystroke logging software on my old backup laptop, the one I left behind while working in Seattle. That's how he got my passwords, my logins, my banking access. Everything. But the biggest gut punch came from a phone call I got from Detective Emily Brooks. "Mr. Jason," she said calmly, "we've discovered your brother has a history of this." My stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" 5 years ago. Different state. Same exact playbook. He moved into a distant cousin's house while they were deployed. Claimed adverse possession. Forged legal documents. He only got away with it because the cousin refused to press charges. Said the family talked him out of it. And suddenly, it all made sense. My parents had to know. When I confronted them again, laid out everything Tyler had done, and now this revelation, they finally broke. Turns out, they'd been covering for him for years. He had borrowed tens of thousands of dollars from them, always tied to some new business idea or investment. He'd bled them dry. They'd even refinanced their home twice just to bail him out. So when he began this whole scheme with my house, they saw it as his last shot. If he could just get one property, my mom cried, just one chance to stabilize, we thought maybe he'd finally grow up. But the evidence was overwhelming. And the district attorney moved fast. Tyler was formally charged with a long list of crimes: identity theft, forgery, wire fraud, mail fraud, criminal impersonation, attempted grand larceny. The case was airtight. He was facing real prison time. His attorney attempted to negotiate a plea deal. Tyler would plead guilty to lesser charges, serve 18 months in minimum security, pay full restitution, and agree to stay out of real estate for 10 years. But Tyler just couldn't stop himself. The night before he was supposed to sign the plea deal, he sent me an email from a burner address. "You may have won this round, little brother. But I've got things on you, stuff about that Seattle trip you wouldn't want public. Documents. Records. If you don't want the world knowing, sign the rental over to me. Walk away quietly." I had no idea what he was talking about. The Seattle trip was 100% legitimate. But I didn't waste time. I forwarded the email to Detective Brooks. Apparently, trying to blackmail someone while out on bail for fraud is a really bad idea. His bail was immediately revoked. More charges were added. And just like that, the plea deal was off the table. The eviction was finalized last month. The tenants, who had no clue what they'd been dragged into, were relocated with my help. I paid them personally for the inconvenience. They were victims, too. The house itself was wrecked. Tyler hadn't just lived there, he destroyed it. When he realized things weren't going his way, he went ballistic. Punched holes in the drywall. Poured concrete down the drains. Destroyed the HVAC system. The total damage came to over $15,000, far beyond any of the improvements he ever claimed to make. Tyler is now serving 3 to 5 years in state prison after the plea deal collapsed. And the deeper the investigation goes, the more comes out. Turns out, he'd attempted similar schemes with at least 2 other extended relatives, but those didn't escalate like mine did. As for my relationship with my parents, it's broken. They blame me for what happened. You could have just given him the house, my dad told me the last time we spoke. Now he's locked up. Was it worth it? Was it? No. I'm not happy about how this ended. I've lost over $100,000. Between the legal fees, home repairs, fraud, and stolen income, it's been emotionally and financially brutal. I've had to lock down every account, change every password, freeze my credit. I've spent months rebuilding my financial identity from scratch. I still flinch when the doorbell rings. I've been in therapy for 2 months now, trying to process the betrayal, the anger, the sheer heartbreak of discovering what my own brother and parents were willing to do. But I'm safe. The house is mine again. Tyler won't be hurting anyone else for a long time. And I've learned some brutal lessons I wish I hadn't had to learn this way. Monitor your properties. Even when you think they're secure. Never assume family means safety. And document everything. Always. Always listen to your instincts, especially when something feels off. Don't let guilt or family pressure make you second-guess your rights. And no matter who's involved, if a crime's been committed, press charges. Even if it's your own blood. Since then, I've rented out the property to a wonderful family, complete with background checks, references, the whole 9 yards. I also upgraded security across all my properties. Full alarm systems, 24/7 monitoring. I simply can't afford to leave anything to chance anymore. And somehow, something good has come out of this mess. I started a support group for people who've experienced property fraud at the hands of family members. I was honestly surprised by how many showed up. Turns out, this kind of betrayal is far more common than anyone wants to admit. To everyone who's supported me through all of this, thank you. And to anyone fighting a similar battle, don't back down. Ever. Tyler thought he could use our family ties as a shield, a weapon to protect himself. But he was wrong. I'm still picking up the pieces, rebuilding my peace of mind one step at a time. It's been the hardest year of my life, no doubt. But I'm still standing. I made it through. And Tyler? Well, he's got a long stint behind bars, 3 to 5 years, to think about the choices he made. Though, if I'm honest, I don't think he'll ever really understand what he did. Sometimes, the strongest revenge isn't retaliation, it's protecting yourself, standing your ground, and letting the law do its work. Take care of yourselves, folks. And hey, maybe do a quick check on your properties this weekend. Final update, 6 months later. I truly thought I was done with updates. I really did. But something happened recently that I feel compelled to share, mostly as a warning to anyone who thinks this all ends when the person goes to jail. About 2 months ago, I started receiving strange phone calls. Always from unknown numbers. Whenever I answered, there was just silence. No voice. No message. Then the letters started showing up. Weird, rambling notes mailed to my work address, rants accusing me of ruining the family, stealing Tyler's future. No signature, but the handwriting looked painfully familiar. That's when my cousin Eric reached out. Jason, he said, I need to tell you something. Your dad's been visiting Tyler in prison every week. And they're planning something. I couldn't believe it. But it was true. Even behind bars, Tyler hadn't stopped scheming. He was now directing my father in some new legal fantasy, trying to find a loophole to undo the sale of my property. The new angle? Tyler convinced my dad that I bought my rental property using stolen family money. According to him, the inheritance from our grandmother, $25,000 given to each grandchild, was supposed to be shared equally. I used mine for the down payment. Tyler wasted his on a failed food truck business. Now he was claiming I stole his half. And my father, overwhelmed by guilt and desperate to fix what he saw as a wrong, actually hired an attorney to build a case. They threatened to sue me for unjust enrichment, demanding I either hand over the house or pay Tyler $200,000 in his share plus damages. Even from prison, Tyler was manipulating them. Creating new lies. Playing the victim. Again. But this time, I was ready. Mark Sullivan had warned me this might happen. People like Tyler don't stop, he said. They just find new angles. So I immediately filed for a protective order against my father and documented everything. I contacted the prison to report that Tyler might be orchestrating fraudulent activities from inside. Turns out, Tyler had been very busy. Investigators uncovered letters he'd sent to other relatives, trying to convince them I had cheated them as well. He was working with a so-called jailhouse lawyer to file fake liens on my properties. He even corresponded with a woman outside prison, someone who believed she was in love with a wrongly imprisoned real estate genius. Yeah. He'd started a prison investment club, teaching inmates how to pull off adverse possession scams. Eventually, the prison had enough. They transferred Tyler to a higher security facility and severely limited his communication privileges. As for my dad's lawsuit, it was thrown out. The judge called it completely without merit and warned my father he could face legal consequences himself if he continued pushing these baseless claims. Then something unexpected happened. That woman Amanda reached out to me. She was a nurse who met Tyler through a prison pen pal program. Tyler had convinced her I was a greedy, jealous brother who destroyed his life out of envy. She'd sent him over $5,000 and was planning to wait for his release, believing they'd build a real estate empire together. We talked for 3 hours. I showed her everything: court documents, police reports, real evidence. She cried the entire time. Another victim of Tyler's manipulation. Just last week, I got a call from Detective Emily Brooks. "Jason," she said, "just wanted to let you know Tyler just picked up another 5-year sentence. He was caught forging legal papers to place liens on properties owned by other inmates' families. Same scam. Different targets. So now, he's facing a total of 8 to 10 years behind bars." Do I feel vindicated? Honestly? No. I just feel exhausted. I'm tired. Sad. Disappointed. My brother is in prison. And my relationship with my parents is gone. They blame me for all of it. "You could have just given him the house," my dad said in our last conversation. Now look where he is. They're in their 80s now. And they've lost both their sons, one to a cell, and the other to justified estrangement. I've since moved to a new city. I still own that rental property, but I hired a management company to handle it. I can't even drive by the place without feeling sick to my stomach. Therapy has helped. But the scars run deep. Having your own family try to destroy you leaves wounds that never fully heal. To everyone who's asked why I've shared so much, why I've gone into such detail, it's because these situations aren't neat or clean. They don't follow tidy narratives. They're messy, long, draining. And they don't just end when someone is arrested. Sometimes, the real damage happens afterward, when the flying monkeys come out. When the abuser's enablers try to finish what was started. When trauma echoes months, even years later. If you're going through anything like this, please. Backhand index pointing right, get into therapy early. Backhand index pointing right, keep detailed records of everything. Backhand index pointing right, don't assume it ends with one arrest. Backhand index pointing right, be ready for pushback, from family, from enablers, from the system. Backhand index pointing right, and don't be afraid to relocate if it means reclaiming your life. Tyler didn't just cost me money. He stole my peace, my sense of safety, my faith in family. But he didn't destroy me. I'm building a new life now, with chosen family, with people who respect boundaries and laws. Sometimes, survival is the only victory you get. And sometimes, that's enough. Thank you for walking with me through this entire journey. I truly hope you never need this kind of insight, but if you do, know you're not alone. Stay strong. Jason.